Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this hybrid meeting of the Angus Council Licensing Board. I would remind all attendees that this meeting is being recorded and webcast live on the Council's YouTube channel. I would remind all remote attendees to mute their microphones when not speaking. Thank you. Start with item 1, apologies for absence.
Yes, Convener, there's apologies today from Councillors Gavin Nicholl and Councillor Scott, and Councillor Melville has joined remotely and the rest of the members are in the chamber.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest and statements of transparency. Yeah, we have one, Councillor Fotheringham.
Thank you very much, Convener. It's just agenda item number 4. It's an appendix to that, the licence number 255 for the Royal Montrose Mercantile Golf Club. I did receive a telephone call from an elected member, and I believe an elected member of the committee, about this several weeks ago. There was, I think, they had an issue with it. I didn't make any comment, and I just immediately contacted an officer who dealt with that situation. But I'll remain in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more? Thank you. Item 3, minute of the previous meeting. Can we agree these as true record? Agreed. Takes us on to item 4, request to vary licences under the Licensing Act 2005. And the first one is A, the Black Horse Inn, 84 Murray Street, Montrose, and it's on page 9 of your papers. Now, I understand we have Mr. Gordon Allen in attendance. Good morning, Mr. Allen.
Good morning.
If you would like to talk to your application.
Yeah, the application is for short. It's a short-term let for the above premises, which is below the Black Horse Inn. Sorry, it's deferred from last month. All right, it's deferred from last month, and we've updated our application form.
Thank you. Members will recall that we have had this application before us previously, and we decided to defer to get some things tidied up. Can I now, bear with me, is there a... I'm looking to see, is there an LSO report on this one? Yeah.
Questions can be asked if necessary.
Right. There is an LSO report which people have read and obviously can ask any questions should they wish. Yeah. Do you want to say anything?
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, the applicants submitted a revised application and operating plan. However, it should be noted by the board that they still haven't requested children's conditions in relation to this licence, so the board may want to ask questions about that of the applicant. Yeah, the applicant still hasn't requested children's conditions on their licence, so the board might want to ask the applicant with regards to that.
Okay, with that, I'll open up to any questions from members. One. It's in relation to the children's conditions. I just want to check, Mr. Allen, as it stands, the licence does not allow children, and keep me right if I get this wrong, and the licence is for the whole of the premises. So the outcome, as it stands, would be that children would not be allowed into the accommodation upstairs. Is that your understanding?
No, my understanding was because the pub is not got. We're not allowed children in the pub, but it's a completely separate entry for the flat. So if we get short-term let they may possibly have family that may have to go in the flat, but they wouldn't be allowed at all into the bar.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. However, the licence is for the whole of the premises, which includes upstairs. And as it stands, children are not allowed. So unless there was a change to that, you wouldn't be allowed children in the upstairs. Am I correct? Yeah. Councillor Fotheringham.
Thank you, Convener. It's actually a question for the officer, because I'm just not grasping this, because it's a separate, I know it's above the public house and it's got a separate entrance. But is there not a condition we can put on today to deal with this?
Sorry, Councillor, I'm going to just clarify what your question is, to deal with what?
That it would need to be a change, but why would it be when it's it's a separate premise? It's not, there's nobody going to be going up there, and it's like me saying that I can't take my niece or my nephew into my house. Is that the same thing? I'm just not grasping it, sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. What we're talking about is an alcohol licence, and the whole area is then covered by the alcohol licence. Therefore, all of the conditions on the licence apply to the whole area. We're not talking two separate premises, albeit physically they may be separate. They are together under the one licence. Therefore, all of the conditions of the alcohol licence would, if you agreed, the variation would apply to the premises upstairs. There has been no request to vary the children's access. And that is not included in the operating plan either. So that's why that would not be permitted under the current conditions.
Councillor Whiteside.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, I think the problem's occurred because you've gone through the process of adding it to your licence rather than going for a short-term let. So that's why this issue's occurring. If you'd gone for a short-term let application, it would have been completely separate, but because he's adding it onto the licence. But my question is for officers, I think, could we approve this today, excluding children from the flat, and the applicant could then apply for a variation on his licence?
It's certainly open to the applicant to make an application for variation at any time, yes.
Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. Again, we went over this the last time, but correct me if I'm wrong, if my understanding is not right here, but would it not be simpler just to apply for a variation of the premises licence which removes the flat from the premises licence, and then that way, because they're two separate entities as such and they've got separate entrances and different addresses, would that not possibly be an option?
Councillor, the variation before us is to add the premises upstairs to the premises licence. So it's not already included, but the applicant is asking for the flat upstairs to be added to his premises licence and therefore included in the alcohol licensing. And that, in a sense, responding to Councillor Whiteside's question as well, or point, that would make it exempt from short-term let licensing because it's covered by an alcohol licence. So at the minute as it stands, only the downstairs is covered by the premises licence. Applicant is asking you to add in the upstairs onto that, and then therefore that would make both premises under the one licence with all of the conditions applying to the whole of that.
Councillor Braze.
I certainly don't have any great issue with what the applicant has applied for, the variation he's applied for. Can I ask, is there any other option regarding variations that we can consider today, given that he's applied for a certain variation? Is it?
Not to change the variation, it would just be to consider that variation that's before you against the statutory requirements. Meets the tests. Conditions at that point, if you're minded to grant, you could add additional conditions that are appropriate to that, whatever, but you would need to have reasons to tie that purely to the variation only. You can't then try and impose it on the downstairs, but it's purely about the variation, because that's all we're considering. We're not considering a review of the premises licences as such. So it's
And would there be a condition available to us today that would allow children?
Arguably, yes. However, it would then be in contravention of the operating plan because it's not been requested, and therefore, there's a sort of contradiction then between the conditions, because it's got to operate in accordance with the operating plan. There's been no request to include children in that.
Thank you.
Councillor Clark.
Thanks very much. I'm definitely getting a lesson in the day. This is really good. My simple request is, how on earth do we get around this? I just honestly would like some guidance, because I think what Councillor Whiteside had said, in an agreement with, if we can do that, because you have explained thoroughly to me, I've grasped the problem here. I'd like a solution if we can get one, because I think there must be.
I'm not sure it's within my role to offer a solution as such. I think in answer to all the questions that have come out, there is a possible route, but it's not for me to point. I'm sorry, it's not for me to point in a particular.
I could come in again. Sorry about that. I do not mean to put you on the spot. Of course not. But you've given me advice. I'm clear in my mind. I just need to find a pathway around to what I see as common sense. Thank you.
I think before bringing, I think we've had one, and it came from Councillor Whiteside. Is that what you were going to come in again for? So that certainly is an option that we can consider. But we'll come back. Councillor Durnall.
Could we change the licence to be a hotel licence or a bed and breakfast with a licence? No.
That is not before you. The variation of the premises licence is before you. That is not a competent.
The applicant would need to put in a new application if he wanted to be deemed as like a residential hotel bed and breakfast licensed premises rather than a pub. Would that be right?
Again,
yeah.
It's not really for me to be offering advice that in effect is advice to the applicant. So really, you have to just concentrate on what we have before us and make a decision on that variation application.
Okay. With that, can we come back to Councillor Whiteside? Can you give us your recommendation again, please?
Okay, can we approve the application before us, which permits use of the accommodation as requested, except for the presence of children, and that would require the applicant to come back to a variation on his licence for the licensed premises.
Sorry, having heard that, Mr. Allen, what are your views on that option?
I'm quite happy to not put children upstairs if that's what you think is the best way. So, do I have to refill in another application again and then come back here next month? Or
well, if we ask,
approve it just now and then.
If we ask possibly what the LSO, can you after we finish have a word with Mr. Allen on the way forward? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect, thanks.
Is there anything else you would like to say?
No, that's fine. Yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, it's just
okay.
It just seems to be sometimes quite difficult to know how to put in these application forums. I think maybe I don't know whether people may need to get more guidance on how to write these things, because
there is
a lot of folk know the laws and things, but like myself, it's the nitty-gritty stuff that we find difficult to.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Allen. I appreciate that. However, it's not the role of the council to offer you legal advice. We're not able to do that. That is out with our abilities. You're perfectly entitled to go and take independent legal advice yourself, and that we would encourage you to do so. We can only give you guidance. We certainly cannot offer you legal advice. That's not permitted.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Convener. And if my colleague is Councillor Whiteside's moving what she has spoken about earlier, it seems very sensible to me. And if that's the case, I'd like to second that.
Any amendments or other? No? Okay, take it that's then unanimous that we grant, but the condition is... no.
It's the variation because the condition is still
Still
already
there.
there.
Yes,
The
that's
condition's
right.
already
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So nothing changes. You're not allowed kids up the stair until you address the issue, either taking advice or whatever, and then you can come back to us. Is that okay, Mr. Allen?
That's perfect, thanks.
Excellent.
Variation's granted.
Right, so the variation is granted.
Agreed.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bear with me, the computers went to sleep. Okay, with that, that takes us on to item B, licence number 312, the Corn Exchange, Olympia Buildings, Marketplace, Nadbrooth. This is a J.D. Witherspoon property, and the licence is for on-off sales. Now, I believe we have... Do we?
An amended operating plan. Do you wish that circulated? Does the board wish
Right,
the amended operating plan to be circulated?
Yeah.
Just to update board members, an updated operating plan has been submitted, which I would probably suggest is helpful for you to see, if you agree.
Are we happy to see it? Okay. That will now be forwarded to us. You'll now have the... Do you not have it yet? So this is a new plan. It doesn't give us any comparison from what was before. No, on here, no.
No, but the applicant will be able to speak to.
Okay. How are we getting on? Have we got it? No? Brenda, you got it? Yeah? And Linda? Yeah, okay.
Online, we've got Archie McIver, the
Yep.
agent, Angus was not on it, and
Okay. It's because you've got so many emails. We're just having an issue getting delivery to one of the members, but we'll get there as soon as we can. Sorry. Oh, yeah, it's got it now. Now, I understand we have Archie McIver, agent, and Duncan McSpurren, the area manager, online. I'm assuming, Archie, you would like to present to the board. You're on mute. Archie, you're on mute.
Apologies, Your Honour, if I had £1 for every time I did that, I'd be phoning you from the Bahamas this morning, I have to say.
That's fine, thank you.
Yeah, yes, I appear in this application, Your Honours, and as you've heard, I'm accompanied by Duncan McSporran from the company. The premises, the Corn Exchange in Arbroath, have been operated by Wetherspoons for a good many years now. I'm glad to say they're a popular and successful venue, and is one which over the years, I think it's fair to say, has changed emphasis quite a bit, which has led to this application coming before you today. The application is on the question of allowing children access to the premises for food. At the present time, they enjoy a 9 p.m. terminal hour, which is in line with your policy, of course. And what they're seeking is a relaxation of that policy to allow children to be there until 10 p.m. Now, the reason for this is twofold, really. First of all, there has been on many occasions requests from members of the public who are out for a meal with their family to be able to stay on a bit longer to enjoy later dining. That's one aspect of it, and that's particularly true during the summer months when the excuse me, the premises are even more popular with families, given the local caravan parks being populated by holidaymakers and the like. The second leg to it, however, is really a change of emphasis in the way the premises have operated. I think it's fair to say that when Wetherspoons first came to Scotland and to Arbroath, they were very much a pub operation. I don't think there's any denying that. But over the years, they have changed quite markedly to being much more of a food-led operation. I'm going to back this up with some statistics in a moment. But there is food available, a full menu, until 11 o'clock every night. It's a very extensive menu, a very price competitive menu, and is one which over the years has received accolades from various food organisations and the like regarding their approach to identifying calorie content and stuff like that. When I was talking about statistics, however, it might interest you to know that Wetherspoons, in this particular unit in Arbroath, 55% approximately of their sales are food. And that figure, if you add in food along with alcohol and drinks being bought as part of the meal, that figure rises to almost 80% of the turnover. They sell more Pepsi than they do lager. They sell more coffees and teas than they do lager. And it's moved and moved and moved to be much more of a food-led operation. Now, this isn't peculiar to Arbroath. It's common with a number of the Wetherspoons sites in Scotland. And I say that really just to emphasise that no longer should they really be used looked at as an out-and-out public house as they once were. They're very far from that nowadays. In terms of the 10 o'clock terminal hour, which we seek and which we absolutely accept, of course, would be a departure from your normal approach to life for children in for food. Again, the operators have experience in 10 o'clock cessation for children in their premises. Indeed, in your neighbouring board areas of Tayside, the Fife, these kind of places, Perth, they have this later terminal hour and they're able to deal with it and cope with it and manage it exceptionally well without issue. So really what we're asking you here, Your Honours, is to consider a relaxation from your policy in a set of premises which is well visited by locals and visitors alike, is well run, well managed, and which, touch wood, has had no major issues at all. It's significant there are no objections to the application and no adverse comments, of which I'm aware anyway, from the like of the police or the licensing standards officer or the like. So we would ask you to look upon this request as a genuine attempt to provide an additional facility for locals and visitors to the Arbroath area.
Thank you very much. I note there is an LSO report. I'll just ask the LSO if he wants to add anything to that or are we happy with it?
Thank you, Convener. No, nothing further to add to the report.
Thank you very much. I'll now ask members for any questions on this application. Councillor.
Thanks, Mr McLeaver. I just wanted to ask, I am a Wetherspoons customer and I am from Arbroath. The only problem I have with this application is I do have grandchildren and I do realise it is good to get out at night and have a meal with the children. It's actually under sort of fives that I have a wee bit of a problem with, because your customers won't particularly want to have toddlers toddling about, crying, etc., buggies, whatever, sitting about when they're trying to have a conversation with their friends, etc. Have you taken that into consideration? Maybe the age of the children that are going to be on the premises. And another another thing is toilets as well. I don't particularly like the idea of children being in the vicinity of toilets when there is maybe persons in there that's maybe intoxicated. That's another sort of issue that I have later on at night. That's the main issues I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, if I could come back and I may ask Mr McSporran to add anything from an operational standpoint that he feels appropriate in answering your question, Your Honours. I think the company, generally speaking, as I said in my main submission, is very experienced in operating children's, if I can put it that way, terminal hours of 10 o'clock. They do it in I suspect the vast majority of their outlets north of the border. And certainly children are very well supervised. Now, by supervised, can I make it clear that, and I'm not being at all flippant here, Wetherspoons do not offer a creche facility. They expect parents to look after their children, but staff are very vigilant in terms of observing what children are doing and where they are and making sure they're accompanied and so on and so forth. So the like of the question you make about the toilets, which of course is very, very well made and very properly made, is something that the staff and all the other premises that they operate of this nature are mindful of and keep a weather eye on. Regarding the point about the toddlers, and again, I take the point that you make, of course. Again, experience tends not to suggest that this causes any great issues. One generally finds that the premises with the longer children's hours, it does tend to be the slightly older children that are there with mum and dad or their aunt and uncle or whoever it may happen to be. The younger ones, simply by dint of their age, are usually back getting ready for bed, to be frank about it, and they're not the ones that are there until the 10 o'clock as we are seeking today. Perhaps Mr McSporran wants to augment that answer, but I hope it covers most of the points.
Yeah, I think just to add to what Mr McIver said, we do find that the premises that operate a kids licence till 10 p.m. Is the older kids that are in till later on, or we obviously have a lot of people in from Europe and more far afield, and they tend to want to eat later into the evening with our older kids, and that's where we've seen with the 10 p.m. licence does help. But certainly all the staff are trained to deal with people when they drink alcohol and to look after everybody in the pub and make sure that everybody is safe and well. And that is the same if it's till 9 p.m. or until 10 p.m. or indeed till 1 a.m. when we close for everyone who's in the pub.
Thank you. Councillor Braze. Sorry, Councillor Gregg. Sorry, I missed you.
I believe Councillor Braze was before I.
thought
Okay.
you were before.
Councillor Brace.
Yes. Yeah, in the papers, we're asked to note that the applicant has not specified the proposed new times for children and young persons access within the operating plan.
That has been, I think, corrected in the amended one we just got.
That's all. You're happy that that's all to your satisfaction?
Yeah, I'm happy with that addition.
Thank you, Convener. My question is for the applicants. Similar to Councillor Durnow's, I don't live in Arbroath, but I have visited the premises as a customer, and I know how busy it is, particularly on Friday and Saturday evenings. It's noted in the document that was emailed to us, the ages of children are 0 to 17. And being in licensed premises, you'll understand how sometimes difficult it is to look at one person and have a rough idea as to how old they are. There are many 14, 15, 16-year-olds that you could quite happily think were 19, 20, 21, unless you check their age. I think you've got up to 25. I think if they look under 25, then you request rather than 18, which is obviously good. However, the other aspect that's causing me slight concern is that, and it's very popular for people to do, is to order drinks and food from an app and have it delivered to their table. So if you've got a selection of 16 and 17-year-olds with perhaps just one adult, and it's a particularly busy Friday or Saturday night, how robustly will that age check be enforced, considering that if it's a very busy time and you've got lots of people in and out, you've got very busy at the bar, you've got very busy with food and drinks orders coming in, how robustly will that be checked upon?
Again, if I may answer, Your Honour, and if Mr McSporran wants to add to it, the short answer to your question is very robustly. It's something that Wetherspoons have been extremely vigilant upon even prior to the introduction of Challenge 25. Now, in essence, what would happen is if someone ordered, as you said, the drinks and the food and so on the app, when the server comes to the table, then if there is any doubt or question in that person's mind as to the age of the people who are being served, then Challenge 25 is implemented at that table there and then. And if there is any lack of ID produced or nothing to vouch the age of the person, then the fact of the matter is they are not served. Now, this is not just true in Arbroath, but it's in, I think I'm right in saying, every Wetherspoons in the country now, and that is how it operates, and that includes exceptionally large and exceptionally busy city centre public houses in the like of Glasgow and Edinburgh and so on and so forth. It's something that, I've been fortunate enough to represent Wetherspoons since the day now they came north of the border in around about 1995, 1996, something like that. And I've absolutely not on any occasion am I aware of ever having had any issue with underage sales in the premises throughout the country. Again, Mr. add to that.
Yeah, I've worked in operations for the last 23 years for Wetherspoons. I've run Edinburgh City Centre for the last 13 years, some of the highest taking sites. To my knowledge, we've never had an issue in any site in the whole of Scotland to do with underage. It's one of the key things that we train our staff in from day one when they start. Is Challenge 25. That applies to bar service or to app service or to table service. It's implemented through every member of staff. If there's anybody in the pub who is underage, the management will be well aware of that. They'll be well aware of the cut-off time, like they are at the minute, from 9 p.m. But that will be managed in the same manner that it is managed now. We've not had any issues with it in the past.
Thank you, Mr McIver and Mr McSporran. Can we now have Councillor Whiteside?
Thanks, Convener. This one's probably for the officers. So we've currently got a board policy which has a cut-off time of 9 p.m. for children, and that was quite recently reviewed. So I'm slightly nervous of going out with that. I'm just wanting a reminder, do we have any other premises where we allow children in later than 9 p.m, and do you foresee a spate of applications should this one be approved?
Thanks, Councillor. Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you if there was ones. I'm not saying that there isn't. There possibly could be. But whether this is good or not, I don't know how it would have any bearing on any other further applications coming in.
I think the Angus Grill and Larder may have got a later one. Yes? You come in.
In terms of future applications, it's not a case of precedent, it's on a case by case. So just because one doesn't necessarily mean the other one would be suitable or appropriate. You have to look at it individually.
Sorry, just another one, the Montrose Playhouse, I believe, maybe as well. Bray.
Yes. Well, despite there already being a few premises which been granted such a such a variation. The policy is there for a purpose, and it's been reviewed quite recently, as Councillor Whiteside pointed out. As far as I understand it, the sole reason that the applicant has given for requesting this major variation is that they believe there is a demand for it from customers. Is there any other compelling reason why the applicants think that we should grant this extension, other than just that they have demand from customers?
Mr McIver or Mr McSpurn?
I'll jump in here, Mr. Behavior, that's all right. So we have, so we've obviously experienced this in other places across the sort of Central Belt and Tayside and Fife, whatnot, where we've had demand from customers. We can see that when we pushed our end time of selling food, we used to sell it to 9 p.m, then we pushed it to 10 p.m, then we pushed it to 11 p.m. You can see that the demand for later food has led to that, and it's exactly the same for the reason for the application. Is we have people in with their kids and they're eating later into the evening, and we're actually having to ask them to leave the premises because we're at the end of our hour. So that is the fundamental reason as to why we're requesting it, because there is demand from the customers in the pub asking to stay later.
Thank you for that. Are there any other questions or comments from members? Councillor Dunno.
I don't have a problem with this application. I do see your point. We have got yachts in the harbour. We are getting more international visitors, and on the continent, the children do eat later at night than what they do here. But I would be quite happy to grant this, but all I'll say is, if I walk into the bar and there's tons of kids running about, I will not be staying. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, we seem to have lost Mr McIver.
We'll just maybe give him
He's maybe dropped out.
a few minutes to come back in.
Yeah, we'll give it a couple of minutes and see if he can get back in.
John's picked up, he's just disconnected, so it's maybe just an issue that we managed to get back.
Okay. Welcome back. Are you there, Mr McIver?
I've admitted him. So. He is showing. He's showing us on. And yeah. He's not muted, so I don't know what the issue is, because he is shown in the call.
We're just resuming the stream. And then we have a question from Councillor Braze, or a comment.
I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but I'm just finding this one quite difficult, actually, because we do have a policy. It is there for good reason and to serve a purpose. As far as I can understand it, the only reason we might grant this licence is because the applicant has told us that there is a demand for this. But that would seem to me that pretty much anyone that's selling food under such a licence could make that argument. So if we're going to grant licences on the basis of these variations on the basis of demand, which seems to be the sole basis here, I don't see how we could turn down anyone who made a good case, and so therefore the policy's wrong. You know, if that's the view that this committee takes, that anyone who can demonstrate demand for a licence till 10 o'clock for children should get that extension, then our policy is wrong. We have to change the policy. We have to work to the policy that's here. So I completely accept, and you know, it's the first thing that occurred to me really, that there is a demand, and Arbroath is hoping to always advance its position as being a holiday destination for tourists from all over the place and from abroad, and they do have different eating habits, and there certainly is demand, I'm sure, in Arbroath for somewhere that's providing meals for families with children at 10 o'clock or up till o'clock in the evening, but that's not what's in our policy.
Thank you, Councillor Braze. Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. Mine's also a comment. Like Councillor Braze, I am struggling with this one. I think it's well acknowledged that here in Scotland we have a rather unhealthy relationship with alcohol. And also as a member of the Family Education and Justice Committee, where child protection is always generally at the forefront of our minds there, I have to bear in mind that and thinking about, yes, there may be a demand from a business point of view, but from a child protection point of view, is it really the best place for children to be in a pub up till 10 o'clock at night, whether they're having food or otherwise? That's where I'm struggling with it. Do we want to be exposing these children to this? If we look at cigarettes and vaping, there's already legislation going through to try and prevent children taking that up. Not quite so much with the alcohol point, but as has been pointed out by Councillor Whiteside and Councillor Braze, that we have a policy in place, and it's for 9 o'clock. And yes, we have deviated from that in the past, for example, which was noted, the Playhouse in Montrose. Primarily, I would say that's a cinema. Angus Grill and Larder, that's sits on the edge of a dual carriageway and is quite remote, and most of the time I don't think it's actually open beyond 7 o'clock in the evening. Whereas this is a pub. Pure and simply, it's a pub. And that's where I'm kind of struggling with this one.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fotheringham.
Thank you, Convener. I take a slightly different opinion and view of this, but totally respect what my colleagues have said about the policy. I've been a member of this board for 12 years, and there's at least 2 or 3 occasions, albeit public houses, not that they were serving food, we have given an extra hour out with the policy. And I have always said what we give, if there's other issues with the police or complaints, we can reconsider it at a future meeting. Mr McQueen has also said we have to judge each application on its own merits, and I believe that's what we do every time. And reading the LSO's report, there has been no complaints made in respect to these premises and no objections. And it's a very well-run establishment, Wetherspoons, and if Arbroath is going to be getting busier, then that is excellent, but there needs to be facilities there for people, for holidays and for things like that. So I'm fully in support of this. But at the same time, as I've said, if there is issues with the police and there isn't here, then it would come back to us for reconsidering anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fotheringham. Councillor Whiteside.
Thank you, convener. I don't know if this is a comment or a question. I was curious as to whether there was any consideration given to applying for this for older children only, rather than 0 to 17. So I suppose it's a question if that's permitted at this stage.
Mr. McIver or Mr. McSpurn?
Whenever we've applied for kids licences in the past, it's always been just 17. We've never had to make that adjustment to it in the past. But as we said earlier, the age of the kids who use the public even are much older children. You don't tend to find like sort of young 0 to 3 or 4 year olds in our pubs after like 8 or 9 at night. But yeah, and then just to touch on as much as you said, as a pub, as you mentioned earlier, 80% of our sales are actually food and soft drinks or tea and coffee. This is much more of a restaurant than any of our pubs that we operate in the whole of Scotland.
Thank you very much. If there are no other questions, I think we'll move to yourself, Mr. McSpurn, or Mr. McIver, for a summing up.
Yes, thank you, Your Honours. I won't repeat my submissions. I mean, that would just be wasting your time. Just in the question of policy, of course, you have a policy in place, and that's right and proper that you do have, but a policy doesn't bind you hand and foot. You do make allowance for premises that are out with and are capable of being treated as an exception, and I would submit this is one such premises. You treat quite properly each application on its own merits, Your Honours, and therefore I would commend the application to you, notwithstanding your normal policy terms.
Thank you very much. With that, I think we will move to the recommendations. Recommendations are: 1, to grant the application subject to statutory conditions and any other variation to the conditions to which the licence is subject that the board may wish to impose. 2, to defer the application to the next licensing board. Or 3, to refuse the application on one or more of the grounds referred to in paragraph 4. I'll now ask for motions. I'll make a start. I move that we grant the application item 1 subject to the statutory conditions. I think the arguments given by the applicant I think are fair and reasonable. It is, as I say, our policy is not set in stone. We can, on one occasion, go out with the policy, and on the next, depending on the facts, go with the policy. It's entirely up to us. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, thanks, convener. As I said, I did find this really quite difficult, but I will second you on this. And probably the chief reason is that there have been no objections and they have a really good track record in those premises. Were it different, I would maybe take a very different view. And as Councillor Fotheringham pointed out, if this doesn't work, well, we can always revoke. So, yes, I will second you.
Any amendments? Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. I would move that we refuse licence based upon 4.6 the licensing objectives for protecting and improving public health and protecting children and young persons from harm.
Thank you very much. Do you have a seconder?
I think Councillor Melville.
Councillor Melville, sorry I missed you there.
Yes, convener. This is not out of agreement with Councillor Gregg, but so that the vote can be taken, so that all options are on the table for members, I will second this.
Can I just say that we have had that before, and I think with this being a quasi-judicial board, I think it would be preferable not to second a motion unless you actually believe in that. I think while I can see it certainly at other boards and so on, and I've discussed it with some members, that it would be preferable only to second the motion if that's something you believe in. However, it's entirely up to yourself.
Well, I will take your advice then, convener, and I will revoke that seconding.
Thank you very much. So with that, it's a majority vote, a majority vote, and that we grant the application, and there aren't any conditions, so it's grant the application, but it's subject to any standard.
Variation of
Oh, sorry,
condition.
variation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
variation.
All
Allow
right,
the
sorry.
children to.
We all happy? Yeah.
That's it, it's done.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Your Honours. Much
Thank you
appreciated.
very much, Mr. McIver and Mr. McSpurren.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Better put that on. I'm delighted to be here today. Oh goodness gracious! Don't tell me this isn't going to open. I don't believe it. It was open a minute ago. I don't know what's happening here. Right. Okay. Coast nightclub. Could I please? I'm terribly sorry about this. I had everything downloaded and it seems to have decided to upload everything and not let me download it again. I apologise profusely for this. I'll bring my laptop next time. Right. Coast nightclub. Coast nightclub and bar, bizarrely in the past, was licensed as two separate premises. The premises had the nightclub, which is operated intermittently as a function room rather than a nightclub for the last several years. The downstairs part of the premises, now I wasn't involved in this then, but for some reason which appears to be lost in the mists of time and I couldn't get an explanation, I think what might have happened was the annual fee request may have gone to the applicant's accountants where the head office was for the previous company that owned it and wasn't passed to the applicant. So because they didn't pay the annual fee, the licence for the downstairs part was lost. Now, my clients had a different solicitor then, and he had instructed them to actually make an application to bring the licence back to life, but that never happened, and I can't give you an explanation for that either. I was brought into this because the applicant had been running for over 18 months on occasional licences. Now there's nothing wrong with that in terms of law, but it's certainly not acceptable to any licensing board that I'm aware of across the whole of the country, because it seemed to be not the proper thing to do. I got in touch with your licensing department, who could not have been more helpful. They said to me, right, what we have to do is bring this back to life. Now, there are two choices for this. Either go for the bizarre situation where there are two licenses in the one building, or go for a major variation to bring the licenses together. So I advised my client that the best option for this was to go for a major variation to bring the premises together. Now, this is perfectly normal, as I'm sure your honours are aware. There are probably hundreds of pubs across Scotland, and certainly an enormous number in Angus, where you have a function room above and a restaurant bar downstairs, and that is precisely what the situation is here. So the only thing that's changing here is making, in my view, sense of the licence to have it under one control. It also makes it easier to control. My clients have advised me that the function room is really now only used for functions. When it first started, it was kind of used for discos
Although I didn't go, I think I was beyond the disco stage when it probably opened, though I don't know about that, maybe go soon. But the point is they don't actually do that type of thing anymore. It's functions. They want to add in, among other things, the possibility for having, in the function room part, they want to have markets, they want to be able to do yoga, keep fit, all that sort of thing, because that brings people into the premises, not to drink, but as my friend Archie was saying, to come in, they probably have a soft drink, go and do these other activities, etc. So that's all there, but they want to keep the possibility for the function room to be used for functions or the odd disco. As part of the application, and I did question, you know what I'm like, I questioned my clients fairly heavily. They wanted to do under 18s discos. Now I said, why do you want to do this? Because I mean, it's hardly highly profitable. And they said, there's nowhere else now in Arbroath or in the surrounding area that are offering under 18 discos. And I said, well, what are you going to do about the bar that's in the upstairs area? Because obviously I went and had a look at it. And they said, well, obviously we'll have that completely cut off, all alcohol removed, covered up the any beer fonts that may be there, and that way only soft drinks will be able to be sold. There's nothing really wrong with that, but that is, of course, a matter for your honours. But I can't see that would be a problem, because people can get into the premises. It offers something which keeps kids off the street. They'll be in a place where drugs aren't permitted. They'll be in a place where alcohol isn't going to be sold to them. And I think this actually, in my view, and this is me as a, well, obviously my son's now 34, but as a mother, I would quite like somewhere safe for teenagers to be able to go. But again, that is, of course, a decision for you. Now, my clients also want to slightly change the opening hours. The opening hours all the way through this have been from 11 in the morning to midnight, Monday to Wednesday, and to 2 o'clock in the morning, Saturdays and Sundays. Now that's something which has always gone on, and it continued through the period of 18 months, occasional licences, and that can be verified by your officers. No issues have arisen with these opening hours. I said to my clients, how often do you open till 2 in the morning? It's not terribly often, but the point is it gives them an opportunity, if they are having a function, to have the downstairs bar open as well, because that makes sense, because the bar then is a feeder, people can come downstairs, sit having a drink, whatever, and the function can continue upstairs. And that, the 2 o'clock opening is already upstairs, and there have been no issues with the 2 o'clock opening with the 18 months roughly of occasional licences that have occurred. They want to add in bar meals and recorded music before but not after core hours. This is to permit the usual breakfast, teas, coffees, snacks, etc., which are going. They were thinking, and I think this does make sense, to permit theatre. This would be comedians and other performers. There are also, and I've only experienced this in the West Coast rather than here, but there are small groups of travelling theatres which would be ideal to have in the premises upstairs so that people can enjoy a play without having to go into the cities. Now, there was a question with regard to the outdoor drinking facilities. These had been built, again, this was something that occurred with the previous people who were representing my clients. The outdoor area was built, it had a building warrant, it was built to the building warrant, but unfortunately it was never had a completion certificate. My client has engaged his architect. He's meeting with your building standards people next week. There's no reason, this is just a technicality, it's just actually a technicality to get the completion certificate signed off. But what they have to do is they have to extend the building warrant, which has expired, once or twice. I'm not actually sure exactly how the procedure works, and then apply for the completion certificate. And that is all underway, and your officers are going out to see my clients next week. They want to be able to facilitate, of course, club meetings and funerals beforehand. No alcohol, obviously, being sold before the opening hours. And they're extending the Sunday opening hours from 12:30, which you'll be aware was a hangover from the 1976 Act, to 11 o'clock in the morning for both on sales and off sales. It's just to tidy the licence up. The off sales, to be perfectly truthful, it's like most premises, they had off sales in the past. As you will know, before the well, probably none of you'll remember, but I do. I remember the first supermarket coming to Edinburgh. The point is that before that, alcohol used to be bought from pubs, and this is a throwover for this. But if these clients were offering, for instance, picnics or something, it may be that somebody would want to take a bottle of wine, and I think this is the type of thing which should be looked upon as beneficial in the area. Now, I put in deliveries. I can't imagine, and neither could my client, doing many deliveries of food, or food and drink, never ever drink on its own. The reason for this is COVID. As we know, during the COVID issue, people had to immediately apply to Your Honours across and other boards across the country to enable this to occur. I submitted my the training document for staff, which I'm sure you're familiar with because I know you've looked at it before. It's mostly pictorial with big words. It's aimed at people who frequently deliver things whose English isn't particularly good. It's trained and people understand the Challenge 25. I created that for Deliveroo and it's been adopted across the whole of the country, and to my own knowledge, we haven't had any issues with people who've trained their staff doing that. As I said, they want to bring in under 18 discos, talent shows, I don't suppose I'll win one, dance competitions, various functions, art and craft exhibitions and that sort of thing in the upper floor only. Now, I've been in Coast 3 times because I do like to, I wasn't familiar with it, and because of the difficulties, I thought I'm just going to go and have a look. So I've been in the morning, I've been in at lunchtime, and I've been in sort of mid-evening. I haven't been there late at night, but it's well run. Family-friendly premises. I've not seen any issues there at all. There are no objections from your licensing standards officer, there's no objections from the police, there are no objections from anybody living within the vicinity, although in actual fact that's a wee bit of an exaggeration because there's nobody living within the immediate vicinity. It's Lidl's, the police station, couldn't be better put for somewhere like that in terms of looking over somewhere. The capacity, because we're coming downstairs and adding that into the upstairs, is going to be 400, just reflecting what it was before, 250 upstairs and 150 downstairs. The external area is 30 something and it's only to be used in clement weather only. I noticed it says in inclement weather only. I don't know if that was my typo. So they'll only be having a drink outside when it's raining, but I think that's wrong. So I do apologise for that. They want to change the name of the premises to Coast alone. The new premises manager, and that's already premises licence holder and manager, is Nicola May Ferguson. I would like to thank your staff for reminding me to change my application for major variation because I'd forgotten I'd only put in the application for the application for change of a transfer of licence. The premises are family friendly. Restaurant with bar with a late night function room situated in the commercial heart of Arbroath. I would like to move the grant of this application. I'm sorry this has been a bit bitty jumping through your agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A note there is a Licence and Standards Officer report. Do you want to say anything on that?
Thanks, Convener. No, there's nothing further to add to the report.
Okay, I'll move then to the issue of building standards. Is there any comment on the outside area? Yeah, come on.
Good morning. Do you mean from myself, Convener?
Yes, sorry, Lee, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to just presume. Everything Mrs. Hood has said there is absolutely correct. It is a case of regularising the situation. She did confirm yesterday that they have been in touch to try to do so, and we'll work with the applicant to get it through that process. It is a case of requiring extensions, a fee and an inspection, but hopefully everything would be okay after that. But the comments are there and the area should not be used until that completion is in place, regardless of the outcome of today.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Melville.
So I was going to ask Lee from Building Standards whether or not that was her understanding, but you got in first, so I'm more than happy to rescind my question.
Thank you for that. Any questions from members on this one? Any comments? Who was up first? Councillor Whiteside.
Thanks, Convener. I was just going to comment that seems a very sensible and straightforward application. Very happy with it.
Thank you. Councillor Dunlop.
Yeah, just to say that I'm glad that you've got the licence sorted out now, and all the things we can to keep the public houses and premises going in our Arbroath is appreciated. Thank you.
Councillor Fotheringham.
Thank you, Convener. Yes, just what my two colleagues have just said there. Another well-run establishment. The licensing standards officers have said that there's no complaints been made in respect to the premises, and he's not aware of any objections, and that's good enough for me. And we just wish the business continued success. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Convener. Colleagues, that was a very comprehensive report we had from Ms Hood, and I'm very grateful for that. Because I don't know all these premises, just what I read here, and I always go on what's there on the day. But I want to wish them all the very best. I have no issues with this at all. Licensing officer, building standards, make it very clear what's necessary. So I'm happy to wish them well.
Thank you. Councillor Braze.
Yes, well, just exactly what others have said, but also to comment that I think it's really good that this whole licence at Coast is getting a good tidy up, because it's much needed. And as a final comment, I'm really astonished that you are not a disco diva, because you have all the qualities for it, Mrs. Hood. But maybe not for the under 18s.
Any other questions, comments? Now, there's quite a lot to this one, and when I originally looked at it, I thought maybe we would want to go through them one at a time, but it appears that people appeared to be relatively happy with it all, so I won't waste time. We do have the delivery conditions, which we'd obviously have to take into account and would be part of, I suppose, any decision we make. The outside drinking conditions as well. With that, we'll move to the recommendations. Recommendation 1, to grant the application subject to statutory conditions and any other variations to the conditions which the licence is subject that the board may wish to impose. 2, to defer the application to the next licensing board. And 3, to refuse the application on one or more of the grounds referred to in paragraph 4. I will now ask Councillor Gregg.
Go in there quick. Move that we grant the application subject to the 5 delivery conditions listed in the LSO report, as well as the 3 outdoor conditions, and that we delegate authority for the building standards check. Once that's complete, then that's delegated to be approved as well.
Give a seconder. Councillor Fotheringham.
Sorry, could it? Yes, no, I'll just agree. Sorry. I was just thinking about the disco diva, sorry. No. My apologies. No, that's absolutely fine. The 5 delivery conditions are there, and the 3, Mrs. Hood's well familiar with our 3 outdoor drinking conditions, outdoor drinking areas. So yeah, I just moved that we grant on that basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fotheringham. Any amendments? So we take it that's unanimous? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Sorry, I'll just get my place again. Oh, sorry, my mic was off. We have Mrs. Hood as the agent on this one as well, if you would like to present on behalf of your client.
Your Honours. The Royal Montrose Mercantile Golf Club is the oldest golf club, I understand, in Montrose, and very well known, I'm quite sure, to all of you. I was called in. They have done an extension of their lounge, which is absolutely beautiful, and they had misunderstood the instructions from the licensing standards officer and thought they had to shut the premises, which was really unfortunate. So I pitched up in the early evening and explained to him that was not what the licensing standards officer had said, and that what the position was that they couldn't serve alcohol into that part of the premises until they had a major variation of their premises licence to sort everything out. They instructed me to make the major variation of the licence, and we discussed other matters. So the first part of this application before you, Your Honours, is to accept the fact that the new lounge area, which holds, I think, 60 people, should be approved by Your Honours as an extension to the golf club facilities. And I don't think you'll find any issues with any of that within the terms of your normal policy. Now, when we were discussing the licence, I don't play golf, so I have to put that absolutely flat on the table, but I do represent a number of golf clubs. Now, the members, Jamie Pert, who is the captain, and Debbie, who is she's a sort of operations manager, said when they go to other golf clubs, they frequently find that they're entitled to have a drink at 9 o'clock in the morning. I thought, well, gosh, that's early. But apparently that's perfectly normal. People might have a small whiskey or something before going out onto the course. This happens in Bankery, it happens in Aberdeen, it happens at Trump, just north of Aberdeen, and sundry other places across the country. Crieff, in fact, as well was the other place that I dealt with. So they're asking for that to be approved by Your Honours to permit people to have a pre-round drink. The second thing that they want to be able to do is if members have purchased alcohol in advance, when the players are halfway around the course, they can have ordered and have paid for and delivered to them a drink at the 9th hole. This again is perfectly normal, I believe, with golf courses across the country. I know personally that I did that for Bankery, for Trump, and the Crieff golf course as well. And it doesn't appear to cause any difficulty. It's not really having far too much drink in the 9th hole, it's just having a drink. It's frequently in the summer, it'll be a beer just to refresh people. They want to amend the off-sales hours to 10 o'clock to facilitate this so that the orders can be made from 10 o'clock and then they can be delivered out onto the course. They want to amend the seasonal variations to reflect your own policy on festive hours, as might from time to time be changed. And I think that's reasonable. Most licences have that now. They want to add gaming within core hours. This is to permit, they took out the gaming machines because, as you probably already know, they're far too expensive. With the tax and the cost of the gaming machines, these were taken out. Now, that was a big source of revenue for clubs. So what they would quite like to do is to have internal club raffles. They don't need particular consents in terms of the Gaming Act, race nights, perhaps casino nights for a glammy event. It's all done with pretend money and whatnot, but people pay to play. And I think that's, again, something that's good for fundraising, because clubs, like everybody else, need to raise funds to keep the facilities going. They would like to have their outdoor drinking from 7 in the morning. That's not alcohol, but they've got a lovely outside area, and they quite like to be able to sit outside having teas, coffees, soft drinks, etc., but also to serve alcohol outside to 10 o'clock at night. Now, that's an hour later than your policy. Well, I walked all round the area, and there are no domestic dwellings that could be affected negatively within the area. And we also have to remember the cohort generally of people at the golf club who tend to be slightly older. They're not going to be rowdy. They're not going to be badly behaved. So I would ask you to consider permitting this occasion to have 1 extra hour after your normal external. Now, I also said to my clients, look, it's freezing. And they said, well, the odd bod would quite like to be out there. And they reminded me, and of course this is perfectly true, that people have to go outside to smoke. So they might, there's not really going to be a lot of difference with somebody going outside, because still quite a lot of people do smoke. And they will be going outside anyway to do that. So it's not going to make a terrible difference in the location these premises are. This isn't asking for something in the middle of a town where there's flats above or anything else. It's just in a place where it probably is reasonable for you to consider that. But of course, that's your decision, not mine. They want to add in the dining room area, keep fit. There's a pool table which young persons have always been permitted to come into the bar to play as long as they're playing pool or sitting down, which I think is quite a good thing. They've got hot meals, snacks, hot drinks. The service in the club is actually superb. I've been in for, well, basic healthy bacon roll, you know, this is why I maintain my figure, and a cup of coffee. And the service was absolutely lovely, absolutely delightful. The facilities are available out with bar opening times for meetings, and they're usually held in the Millennium Room, which is up the stairs, or the dining room area of the club. The Millennium Room is really used probably mostly for club members, but it can be hired by people who are wanting to come in to actually use it for other purposes, perhaps a small dinner, something like this. They've got, I've said it, raffles, I beg your pardon. They want to have auctions of golf-related items like a round of golf, golf equipment for fundraising, etc. And the layout plan, of course, has been extended to take in the lounge area properly. The increase in capacity is 55, sorry, I said 60 to 201. So that, from 201, so that's 256, and it breaks down the capacities of the various rooms. And the outdoor weather, which is for clement weather only, is for 70. Now, the terms of the club conditions are that young persons are permitted into the club, providing, of course, they're behaving themselves not in front of the bar, they're allowed in till 9 o'clock. I was asked to suggest that if there's a prize giving, they might be permitted to at least remain in the club to get their prize. Or if there's a private function, which happens, this is normal across the whole of the county, they could stay for a private function as well. There have been no adverse comments on any of the proposals that I have made today. I thought the plan was quite clear the way I thought the architect did a really good job showing how the changes are going to happen. And obviously there's a licensing standards officer's report which he will deal with, I have no doubt, just now. And I want to say thank you very much for listening to me making this presentation, and I move the grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hood. With that, I think we'll ask the LSO whether they want to add anything. There is a report contained in your papers.
Thank you, Convener. No, there's nothing further other than what's already on the report.
I'll move then to building standards again. Are there any issues outstanding regarding building standards?
Thanks again, Convener. Yeah, so I had some minor queries just on occupancy capacity that I hope to clear up before board, but one of the points, if I can draw your attention to page 23 in the actual plan, Janet there has cleared something up that it does state that the purple highlighted area, the external area, she has said it is applying for 70, which is written, but on the plan it states 60. So it was just to clarify that number. Either is fine, but I just wanted to draw it to the board's attention. And the second point being the orange area, but the small original lounge in the middle of the orange area. It shows 20 on the plan, but 24 is being applied for in the application and the legend. I would note that as there has been changes to the building, 24 is actually it is classes overcrowding, and 20 would be acceptable, but 24 in this case would not. And that's all our comments.
Thank you very much for that. Would you like to reply, Mrs. Hood?
Yes. Beg your pardon. I'd be absolutely delighted to pass this on to the clients. I don't think they'll have any difficulty. If Lee would kindly send me just a note of exactly what numbers she wants on the plan, I'll make sure that that is complied with, and a new plan will be submitted and the client will be advised.
Thank you very much for that. I'll now open to members. Do you have any questions on this application? Councillor Braze.
Yes, thanks, Convener. Just for clarity, am I right in thinking that that the golf club only sells alcohol to members and their guests and golfers?
That's correct.
The general public?
General public can't walk in.
Can't walk in. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Durno?
Would the bar staff have the discretion if they have, say, a golfer that's known to have a drink problem coming in at 9 o'clock every morning? Would they have the discretion to say, I don't think you should be drinking that early? That's the only problem I have. If someone has an alcohol problem and they know they can go at 9 o'clock in the morning, and okay, it's a private club, so would it be a member's discretion to say, maybe that's, maybe drinking too much? Or if a family member had a problem with, someone going in at 9 o'clock in the morning because they know they can drink, that's the only thing I would have.
I beg your pardon. Any person selling alcohol can refuse to sell alcohol to anybody who comes in. I've only experienced this once when my husband actually was running, he was part of the business in the Ramsey Arms Hotel, and one of his customers' wives came in to say, could you please not sell alcohol to Billy Bloggs, which my husband and his partner, business partner, agreed not to do. Unfortunately, the guy then started driving to the nearest town where he could get cheap vodka in a mini supermarket, and ended up crashing his car. So yes, these things can be done. Is it always the best thing? I don't know. How would, without being funny, how would I know, or sorry, how would you know if I had that alcohol problem? Because I could just be going out onto the thing. I don't think what I have understood from talking to the other clubs I have managed to obtain this type of licences. People just have one, they go out and they play a round of golf, which of itself is undoubtedly something healthier than sitting in a bar. And real alcoholics, let's not kid ourselves, they're going to go to the supermarket, buy the cheapest vodka they can get and probably drink at home, because the price of buying a nip is considerably higher than the equivalent from something that you might buy somewhere else.
You can't access drink in the shop at 9 o'clock in the morning, though.
A real alcoholic would have bought it the day before. I think that's the nature of the disease, is that they are well prepared, they frequently have stashes. I've done quite a lot of research into this, and I think these are things that are known, to be honest.
Councillor Whiteside.
Thank you, Convener. It's just a comment. I think we've got discretion to vary the standard rules. I think golf clubs are a very different proposition to a pub or public house, and I think the application seems reasonable, and it's obviously a members-only, well-run establishment.
Thank you again, Convener. Yes, just like my colleague Councillor Whiteside just said, it is a well-run club. I think I've been in it once or twice, not very recently. And again, Mr. Leith has got has looked in, there's no complaints as far as he's aware of, and no objections. So I would suggest that we just grant this application. Thank you.
Councillor Braze.
Yes, I'm very familiar with those premises, although I'm not a golfer, and I have been in various times over the years as a guest, but very familiar with the premises. They do not have any near neighbours, and I see no wrong in this at all. Thanks.
Any other? No, I think I'll make a comment. I'm not a golfer. However, in saying that, there's something about obtaining alcohol at 9 o'clock in the morning, which maybe bothers me slightly, and added to that I could be playing around the golf after having a drink, and then at 9:30 or whatever, I could have delivered to me at the 9th hole, which I now know is halfway around the golf course. I thought it might have been a place. More alcohol. I don't know, there is something about that which, I don't know, maybe in the grounds of public health or some, those sorts of things that bother me slightly. In saying that, I'm not going to put an amendment in if anyone puts a motion in, but I'll move with that, I think, to allow Janet to sum up, if that's okay.
Thank you. I absolutely understand what you're saying, convener, about the 9 o'clock in the morning, and these things sort of spring into my mind. But the fact is, it does appear to be something. It's not, as far as I'm aware, in the golf clubs that I have achieved this early hour, we're not having people drinking heavily at 9 in the morning. They're having a nip. To fortify them, I don't know, to go out onto the course. The halfway round thing, as I say, is frequently just a beer, just to slake their thirst. Again, we're not talking heavy drinking here. I spoke to the club about this because I did anticipate that you would be asking these questions. And they said that when they go, to visitors' places where this is happening, most people don't even do it. The beer in the middle, though, is much more popular because it is hot in the summer. I mean, at the moment, you probably want a hot toddy or a cup of coffee or something, but to be perfectly truthful, if this was something that I think you know me well enough. If I thought this was going to encourage serious drinking, I would have suggested to my clients, I don't think it's a good idea. But I have no evidence to show, and I understand your fears, that your fears have been met anywhere else where this has been approved. But that is not for me to say you have to approve it. It's for you to decide whether or not you agree with my position. I don't see it's going to do any harm. It brings the club into the same sort of position as clubs elsewhere, and I think many clubs across Scotland, not just the ones I've dealt with, have got this type of facility. It doesn't appear to cause any harm, and I move the grant of that plus the rest of it. Thank you very much.
I think with that and following that summing up, I think we'll move to the recommendations, which are again, number 1, to grant the application subject to statutory conditions and any other variation to the conditions to which the licence is subject that the board may wish to impose. 2, to defer the application to the next licensing board, or 3, to refuse the application on one or more of the grounds referred to in paragraph 4. Can I ask for motions, please? Councillor Whiteside.
I would propose that we approve the application subject to the agreement on the capacity numbers with building standards.
Councillor Braze. Any other amendments? No? Okay. We'll take that as unanimous.
Convener, Your Honours, thank you very much.
We just a request for a break, which I think we can agree to. Everybody all happy with a couple of minute break? Okay.
For a break just now.
Yes.
Wanting to adjourn for
yes.
how long? 5 minutes?
5 minutes, is that okay? Yeah, 5 minutes.
John, could you stop?
Lloyd back on camera, please.
Oh, yeah. Lloyd, is he there?
Back on camera.
Come all these pictures though.
Yeah.
Lloyd, are you there?
Oh, there, here he comes. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Are we on?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you everybody. We're back and we're on to item 5, gambling policy statement, which is at page 31 of your papers. You will have read this report on the policy statement. This report is for noting. Are we happy to note the gambling policy?
Well, we could
Thank you very much.
approve the structure.
Oh, sorry.
Agree. Oh, sorry.
No, on the record. No, not
Sorry.
on this one. Okay. We will move on to item 6 on page 33, which is a review of fees. Members will have read the proposal for the review of fees. Are there any questions on this report? No? Okay, we'll move to recommendations. We're asked to approve the revised fee structure contained in Appendix 1 and 2, agree the implementation date of the 8th of April 2024. Do we agree? Agreed. Move to item 7 on page 36. This again is a report for noting only. Personal licences, delegated approvals. The recommendation is recommended that the board note the licences granted under the delegated authority as detailed in the attached appendix. Do we agree to note? Move on to item 8, page 38. This is delegated approvals for noting only. Do we agree to note these delegated approvals?
Agreed.
Move to item 9, premises licences, minor variation at page 42. I don't have that written on my papers, but 42. Again, delegated approval for noting only. Do we agree to note the delegated approvals?
Agreed.
Item 10, timetable for the next meetings, 2024-25. Do we agree to note or approve, the following programme of meetings?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. That is the end of the board.
John, would you stop the live stream for Angus Licensing Board?